I'm not exaggerating when I say that this was one of the most stressful days of my life. Honestly. Hello folks, and welcome back to the channel. If you watched any previous ones, then as always, thanks a lot for coming back. And if you're new to the channel, my name's Andy. I'm an ultra cyclist on the south coast of England. It's an absolutely beautiful sunny day today, and I'm out for a deliberately very short ride. This is a perfect opportunity to show the fun journey home after scratching from the TCR. As of today, it's 2 weeks since I got home. And I've had 1 week to sulk, be miserable, another week to just eat what I want, but decided as of tomorrow, getting back on the horse with the same program, I'm going to pull my finger out and get back to it. If you watched the last video on the TCR effort and you know about the knee injury, then that's another challenge at the moment, just rehabbing that knee. I've been doing my exercises. I had a knee injury a long time ago. My first 200-mile ride, I had a training plan that was something like 20 weeks, and at the very beginning injured my knee in a very similar way and was given physiotherapy exercises that worked. I carried on with the plan, got on, managed the 200-mile ride. That was about 7 years ago, but I've rehabbed that knee injury while riding, so doing the same exercises now, and so far so good. After about a week the pain's almost gone, so going really well. Even so, I'm not going to push my luck. Today is a beautiful day. Would be really good to get out into the South Downs with my bike and go for a nice long cruise, but it's not worth risking the knee. So I'm going to go for a little cruise around the island. When I filmed the journey home from the scratch in Munich, I realised I didn't film everything. I think being tired and fatigued is something I'll work on in future. The filming kind of comes off the back of the riding anyway, but I would rather film more, so I'll fill in the gaps. So I'm going to show how the journey went, getting home from Munich, some mistakes I made, and maybe if you have to scratch from an event, you can learn from my mistakes and get home a bit more smoothly. So I'm going to carry on and go and find some coffee and cake or something like that. I'll hand over to Andy from the past. And if you've got any questions throughout, put them in the comments because I replied to all of them. You've probably seen that already. But any questions, put them in the comments. I'm motoring home. I sat around in Munich for about an hour, 2 hours maybe. Bumped into another rider I saw on the tracker, so I thought I'd go say hello. And he had a bit of a shocker as well, and all the shops being closed in Belgium and France, he just couldn't get enough fuel and was having a pretty rough time. But carrying on. So I thought I'll bike pack my way home slowly, but I don't really want to do that. I don't really like bumming around. If I want to stop, I will, but I kind of want to push on home and just push on in general. It was 600 miles from Munich to the ferry. I can get a ferry each day at midnight, seems to be available, and get some sleep on the ferry. So I'm just going to push on. Obviously I had a good sleep last night. I'm about 35 miles from the top of the Alp that I climbed on the way out. Going this way is a much shorter climb up, and And then that 40-mile drag up I mentioned, I'll be going down that. So I'm thinking I'll push on over the top of the Alp, descend down into Stuttgart, and then maybe sleep somewhere before or after Stuttgart, but I don't know. I might just push all the way through if I feel good enough, and then get a hotel tomorrow night. See what happens. But it's quite cool at the moment, so just gonna push on. That day, I actually rode about 120 miles from Munich, almost to Stuttgart, over the Alp, and rolled down that gentle descent, almost to Stuttgart, and it was getting quite late. So I started looking for somewhere to sleep, tactically, with bakeries around for the next morning, and found a business that was open, the gates open. It seemed absolutely perfect. They opened at 7:30, I'll be long gone by then. Shelter, a roof over my head, so I got set up, comfy, cleaned myself up, bedded down for the night, feeling like I was tucked away, safe and secure. So I thought. I think I just broke the record for packing my stuff away. This place opens a lot earlier than I thought it did. And it's where the bin men come to pick up their lorries. I better get out of here. Whoops. I got a few choice looks there. It seemed like a perfect place to sleep, with cover and everything. And it opens at 7:30. But apparently, the bin men come and get their bin trucks at 5 AM. Well, at least I got packed up and left quickly. Good evening. Not a lot happened today. After my rude awakening this morning, I started riding in towards Stuttgart, and my knee just felt quite sore. I've been where it's the morning. Tendinitis is a bit like that. Worse in the mornings. But I thought, not going to push on today. Just going to sit in a cafe, and sat in a cafe for about 6 hours actually, drinking coffee and eating cakes. It's quite nice. And started to think that it's probably not a very sensible idea to ride all the way back. So, as of right now, I am at Stuttgart Airport, at the bus terminal, hoping to get the bus with my bike to Paris, because that's most of the way home. By the time I've had a good sleep, I can either have a day there and then ride home, or maybe ride home tomorrow. Only worry is, this packed is bigger than the baggage allowance, so I'll just have to hope the driver's in a good mood. Otherwise, I'm going nowhere. So wish me luck. So I'm going to step in here and elaborate, because there's quite a lot of meat to add to the bones of what happened this day I didn't talk about on the camera. This was an absolute debacle, and for whatever reason I decided on the day I didn't want to talk about it. Some parts of it I felt a bit silly about, and some parts of it I just didn't think to. I'm not exaggerating when I say that this was one of the most stressful days of my life. Honestly. So, sitting in a cafe for 6 hours, eating pastry and drinking coffee, sounds nice, right? You're tired, exhausted. That's not a bad way to sit and recharge batteries. It's not really how it went. So after my rude awakening, I started riding and my knee was quite painful. And I just thought, this is not going to happen. So find a bakery and and sit and relax for a bit. On top of that, I woke up with just some stomach cramps. Not very bad, but just wasn't feeling very good. So I rode about maybe 10 miles, found a bakery, and then sat to try to figure out what to do. When I arrived, the stomach cramps really flared up. I'm not sure to this day exactly what caused it. Whether it's the stress of the rude awakening, sometimes that can cause funny things with your guts. Maybe I got a touch of IBS. Or maybe dehydration from the previous day kind of firms things up, and I don't know, maybe I had pretty bad stomach cramps. So I sat in this cafe and thought, I'll try to figure out how to get home. It took me 6 hours because I probably had 2 minutes of sitting and relaxing, and then 30 seconds of just being doubled over in a lot of pain all day. I managed to find a company called Flixbus that have buses all over Europe. So I thought, that seems like a pretty good option. If they can get me to Paris, I can get home from Paris. Didn't consider the Olympics at all, but it just seemed like a good central hub to get to, and I know I've ridden home from there before, worst case. So I found a bus. I'm about 2 hours out from Stuttgart city, and the best bus I could find was from Stuttgart Airport. That's the first mistake. Going to Paris is the second mistake. So the Flixbus website is a little bit confusing in that you can book your ticket, and when it mentions bikes, it says you can book your bike slot during or after. So I booked my bus ticket. It's £100, not the cheapest, but it was better than flying, and it was a direct, fast bus from the airport. When I tried to book the bike on, not a chance. No way to book it. Couldn't figure it out. So I got onto the online chat, and after spending about an hour and a half on chat, couldn't get a phone number, they wouldn't let me phone. I spent about an hour and a half on chat trying to figure it out, and the long and short of it was, that bus does not take bikes. So, obviously, that's pretty bad. No refunds, they wouldn't refund me, they give me a voucher. When am I ever going to use that again? So eventually I settled on, I'm just going to try it. I thought, in the UK, it's generally not an issue. After being in this cafe for hours, I've got to start making my way to the airport. I went to a supermarket and bought a roll of cling film, and thought, when I get to the airport, I'll break the bike down, I'll wrap it in cling film, and then hope for the best. Then I had to get to the airport, and it was 20 kilometers. So not far at all, but it took me hours. I had to stop every couple of kilometers to a cafe to get a cold drink. My stomach was just agony. So much that I thought the pain was so bad, I thought I was going to pull into traffic or something or have an accident. So I had to keep stopping. At one point I got to a park, took off my jersey and laid on the floor, and heard people riding past going, oh, okay. Probably looked like a real weirdo, no jersey, laid on the floor for half an hour. But eventually I made it to the airport. Probably took me a couple of hours to ride 20k to get there. When I arrived, obviously I was worried about the bus, because I looked online, some of the stories in forums where people would say, it's fine. Some people would say they got rejected. If I got rejected, I had all kinds of problems. I had about 5 or 6 hours just to stand around in the airport. And there was an office for Deutsche Bahn. They manage trains in Germany. So I got there just before they closed and found out the following morning there's a train that goes to Paris. It has one space for a bike left. It leaves at 7 a.m. and the office for the tickets opens at 6 a.m. So as a fallback, worst case, I could rebuild my bike, get to Stuttgart for 6 a.m. and get on the train for 7 a.m. The bus was coming at 11 p.m. I tried to find a big box to put my bike in, to fly it home, not a chance, and started to realise the airport was a bad idea. Everyone has luggage. Paris is a bad idea. The Olympics is on. I really had to hope the bus let me on, because if they rejected me, the only option I really had was to rebuild my bike in the airport, which might take an hour or so. So probably be doing that until about 12:30 in the morning. Then I'd have to get to Stuttgart city. I was exhausted by this point. I just couldn't imagine doing that. So I'd have to ride to Stuttgart, get to the ticket office at 6 a.m, get the train home at 7 a.m. I really did not need that. So I sat around for hours. All they had was McDonald's. I was there long enough I had to eat 2 McDonald's meals, and then eventually just sit in the bus depot and wait for the bus and hope for the best. So I wanted to kind of come clean on that and keep my record of always talking about the good and the bad. Might help somebody out. And to be honest, I've always said this isn't always a fairy tale, sunshine and rainbows experience. So yeah, I'm in Paris. It's pretty rainy, but I'll take it. I'm slowly making my way home. Bus drivers seemed pretty miffed about the bike, but luckily they turned up 10 minutes late. And I kind of thought by that point they're probably just going to want to get everyone on and get moving. And they did. And he didn't notice at first, I wrapped it so well. But when he spotted it was a bike, he said, "You paid?" "Yeah, I have a whole bag." You have to pay for a bike separately. I mean, there's loads of stuff I've learned on this trip. Having a contingency to get home is one of them. I got really lucky there. I paid 100 quid for that bus ride, and I took a bit of a chance as to whether or not I'd get on it or not, and I did. But if I do this again, or if you do it again, have a contingency to get home. But I'm in Paris now, so just arrived in a place called Torcy. I think they're dropping us off on the outskirts because didn't really think this through. Again, the Olympics is on, isn't it? The opening ceremony was yesterday, and I come into Paris, so it seemed like a good central hub to get home, but maybe not the most sensible. So luckily they dropped us from the outskirts. I plotted a route to start heading north, and the first cafe I see I'll go in, get some breakfast, and then work out an actual plan. I don't really want to push the knee any more than I have to, but the trains might be screwed. So let's see. It's 120 miles to get to the ferry, and I've got about 15-16 hours before my ferry. I've just booked one, so see how this goes. Well, we're riding home. I just stopped at a boulangerie. Boulangerie? I think so. For some pastries and coffee. Really, really good. Looked at my options, and I thought the route riding back to Dieppe, the last couple hours you're on the purple, the Avenue Verte, purple route or whatever. It's really nice and really fast. So I thought maybe I'd get the train to there and then just cruise that last bit. But it does look like the trains are all screwed for some reason. I don't think it's the Olympics. Paris seems fine, certain directions are fine. Paris to home for me, not fine. So I'm riding, but it shouldn't be too bad. 110 miles left, and about 14 hours to do it. 12 hours? 14 hours. Should be alright. The knee's not too bad. If the knee was cripplingly painful, I'd probably work a bit harder to find an alternative. But it's always there, it's painful. It was swollen yesterday. So I've had enough knee injuries to know when to push and when to definitely stop. I can get home. I just need about a week or so to recover. But probably, to be honest, not going to want to look at this bike for about a week anyway. So that's fine by me. I'm also looking forward to my bed. I haven't slept in a bed for a while now. I've obviously slept at that truck place where the bin lorries woke me up. And last night I slept on the bus. It was quite bad. Tonight I'll be sleeping on the floor of the ferry. So tomorrow night, back in my own bed. As long as nothing else goes wrong. When did I last sleep in a bed? Quite a while ago. Who knows? When did I last shower? A week ago? No. Something like that. Grim. I think I'm finally leaving Paris now. That took a really long time. This route is 120 miles and 30 miles was just getting through Paris. So I think I'm getting out. The knee's easing into it now, so it should be fine. I decided I'm going to push on, eat the food I've got left, and only stop twice. So every 40 miles, find a boulangerie, have some pastry and some coffee, and then on to the next one. So then I have 2 boulangerie stops, and when I get to Dieppe, maybe have a curry or something. That'll be the end of the ride. That'll be the end of the trip, really. I'll be probably getting the train home from Brighton, I reckon. But still got 80 miles to go yet, and 12 hours to do it. So let's see. Didn't really think that through, did I? How am I going to eat that? I'll manage. Knee is starting to feel it now. I'm about a bit more than halfway to the ferry, and it's getting quite tight, so I'm having a bit of a stretch on the saddle. I think if I stretch my quads and my hip flexors, then that's probably going to help a bit. I've only got one section left to get over. Steep climb and then slow climbs for about 16 miles. Once that's done, it's downhill all the way to Dieppe. It's about 40 miles gradually downhill to the sea. So, first stretch, just nurse his knee over that last hill, and then get to Dieppe for some pizza or something. So I think I worked out why there are no trains. I saw a few messages from people that apparently there's some sort of attack on the French train system. I'm not sure what kind of attack on people, or like a cyber attack or something, I have no idea, but no trains running until Monday apparently. So even if I wanted to get a train, there ain't any. So yeah, luckily I can carry on. But that makes sense now. I thought earlier, it was strange, there were a lot of police around the train station, which is odd, but now we know. Final climb of the trip. Climb 3 of 3 for this route. Pretty nice. Very nice. It's a mile long and I've got like 3/4 of a mile left. Not too bad, is it? Not too bad at all. Last time I rode this route in Dieppe, had a curry, a biryani, I remember, after PPP. It was really good, so might treat myself to that when I get to Dieppe. Let's see. Stretching my knee really helped then. Doesn't hurt at all now. For now. Nearly there. It is sore now. This setup feels so heavy. It's a couple more miles and then it's all downhill. Vaguely downhill. 76 miles in now. Bring on the downhill. One more mile of climbing. This knee is not feeling good. We are not on speaking terms right now. I think it hates my guts. It's been overcast all day, which has been quite nice to be honest. But it looks like for the last 2 hours I might get some sun. It'd be nice. Let's get this last climb done. Shut this knee up. On the Avenue Verte. That's it. not perfect downhill, but it's generally downhill all the way back, and it's really nice. This is probably the first time I was on substantial bike tracks in France and realised they're actually really good if you get on the right ones. This is a road at the moment, so it doesn't count, but it's pretty much like this all the way. Oh yes, look at this. Let's go. And this has been a really good opportunity to decompress. I probably would rather just go straight home and rest the knee. But it's been quite nice riding what I did ride, going back through Germany. I love Germany, it was so nice. A great place to ride. And now coming through north of France, I like this part of the ride too. Knees hurting, but still. It just helps me to process everything that's happened. I don't remember a lot of it. I need to rest. I haven't slept very well at all, obviously. But it is really good to take the time to process, and it's funny how I went from yesterday was a really hard, stressful day trying to get home without barely any energy, sleep deprived, and making all kinds of wrong choices. And I'll tell you at that point, I wasn't going to talk about it on here because I give myself time to sort of like cool off. But I was thinking at the time, I'm never doing it again. Never doing that kind of ride again. And I might even rebrand the YouTube channel because I clearly haven't got the staff. And this isn't quite for me. I love riding my bike. I love riding it far. I was thinking the racing side, never going to place very well. But to not finish both events this year, I was pretty low yesterday. Main thing I took away from All Points North was motivation to not let that happen again. Don't scratch again at all costs. It was a pain in the backside and it didn't feel good afterwards. But this time it was out of my control, and I thought it would be much more difficult, and it probably will be. I'm gutted. Thinking about, I keep seeing kebab houses called Istanbul Grill, and every time I see them I feel they're gutted, I'm not going. But I think more importantly, what All Points North really taught me was that scratching is okay, and that lots of people do. I believe the pass rate over all of the editions of TCR is about 30%, something like that. So if you're scratching that event, you're in the majority, basically. But I felt like I had what it took to come out with an average result, to get to the end in not a particularly special time. So to not finish at all is gutting. But then lots of people DNF because of knee injuries, including the previous winner Josh Hibbert. So that makes me feel better, not because he didn't get through, but because it wasn't just me. So lots of processing to do, but this ride has been really helpful for that. All the while the knee isn't completely screaming, I can think and meditate. This is like meditation for me. I'm on track now to be about 4 hours early for my ferry. So let's get this Avenue Verte done. Go get some food and a couple of beers, I think. That'd be nice. Probably fall asleep at the restaurant. Made it to Dieppe. It's not a bad sunset, is it? I just had a curry and a beer. I'm feeling pretty knackered now. But I might go have another beer. Why not? Not training for anything now, am I? I gotta tell you, I was pretty relieved to get to Dieppe. From that point on, I didn't have to ride my bike at all. A 4-hour ferry and a 2-hour train, and then I'm home. But I was about 4 hours early for the ferry. So I had a few shandies, a curry, and went to a dessert restaurant and had the most outrageous dessert they had on the menu, which was amazing. And then caught the ferry from Dieppe to New Haven. The ferry's about 4 hours, so I managed to get about 3 hours sleep on the ferry on the floor. And then when I got to New Haven, it was about 4 AM, something like that. There's nowhere to sleep in the ferry depot. So I rolled out into an industrial area, set my bivvy up, slept about 2 hours behind an industrial unit. First train home was about 7 or 8 AM, so I had time to kill anyway. So that was it. 2 weeks ago today, finally managed to get home, and there are still people out riding on the way to Istanbul right now. And if I had the time to carry on and rest a bit, I'd love to have been one of them still going right now, but I couldn't do that, I didn't have the time. I checked early this morning and Ian Lyons, a subscriber and watches these, and I met him at the start, and he's still going, just gone through Bursa, not far from Istanbul, so good on you, mate. So that is it. That is how my TCR story ends this year, riding wise anyway. It's going to be whirring around my head for a while now. I've got quite a few things to change after that event. So there will be a video shortly after this one with lessons learned, things I'll change for that event next time, but also things I'll be changing my whole setup in general. You can probably tell getting home was pretty stressful, but there are ways I could probably factor in some kind of better contingency for next time. So if you're planning to ride an event like this next year, or this event, then hopefully I'll see you on the start line. But the lessons that I learned this time, hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and not fall foul of the same issues yourself next time. I did learn a lot and had a great experience, but not the one I was hoping for. So stay tuned for the next lessons learned video. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you all on the next one.